नित्यानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि. So, who's the Adinivasi of the day who is going to be featuring in today's Ask the Avatar series? I think to introduce the Adinivasi of the day, I just have to use two words. She is a YouTube celebrity. This Adinivasi has enriched the maximum number of people to connect with Swamiji, right next only to Swamiji. She is the next person who has enriched the maximum number of people with Swamiji's teachings to connect with Swamiji. And of course, I'm sure it's not a surprise for any of us. Today's Adinivasi in the Ask the Avatar series is none other than our dear Ma Nitya Swarupa Priyananda. I invite Ma Nitya Swarupa Priyananda to please come and join us on the stage. Ma Nitya Swarupa Priyananda is a monastic disciple of His Holiness Paramahamsa Sri Nityananda Swamiji, and she is very well known for her famous YouTube channel, which has over 51,000 subscribers and almost 5 million views. She was born into a Catholic family in Canada in the year 1984. While her family was highly active in the church, she always felt a deep yearning for something more, which couldn't be found in the Western society around her. At the age of 8, she declared she would never eat meat again after realizing that the so-called food on her plate had once been an animal. From that age, she has taken up the life of veganism. The criticism and questioning she then faced from friends and relatives gave rise to a deep inner yearning to live somewhere else, to find a place where all life is respected. Listening to the priests and religious teachers around her expound on the need to fear God and embrace suffering as something sacred, by the age of 12, fed up with arguing, she declared herself as an atheist, convinced that if that so-called God was real, she didn't want to believe in an entity that created creatures only to suffer. By her late teens, her inner space was filled with rebellion against what she perceived as the world, which was cruel farms, sweatshop labor, indoctrinating schools, poisonous food. The only thing that kept her hopeful for the future were her dreams. Most notably, the dreams of a beautiful, young, saffron-clad Hindu monk the dreams of a young, beautiful, saffron-clad Hindu monk who beckoned her to a reality she yearned to experience. Finally, at the age of 24, After praying intensely for enlightenment, she discovered that the life she had always imagined and fantasized about, but which seemed too good to be true, is real, and that is the lifestyle of Hinduism. On the remarkable day of the 15th of September 2009, while she was riding the bus home from work, Swarpapriya had an inner voice declare that her prayer was being answered. That very moment, her eyes landed on a poster bearing the divine image of His Holiness Paramahamsa Sri Nityananda Swamiji that said, Kalpataru, don't miss it. She ran off the bus and stood with tears of joy in her eyes in front of that poster, knowing she had found him. The one who appeared in her dreams for so many years, the one whom she had earned to know in reality, the one who was her very own Guru. In less than 2 months, she saw herself fly to Bengaluru Adinam for attending the Inner Awakening Retreat and continued on to the 3-month Life Bliss Engineering program. From that moment on, her life was no longer a reaction to the problems in the Western world, but a celebration of the innate perfection and the possibility of the existence. She decided to stop hiding from cameras and feeling like a complete misfit in the society. Her love for Swamiji and the gratitude for the blessings he was constantly showering on her inspired her to break her pattern of shyness, buy a video camera, and start sharing her experiences on YouTube. She started her own YouTube channel in the year 2011. I can say now with absolutely no doubt that next to Swamiji, she has single-handedly enriched the maximum number of people with Swamiji's teachings. She has more than 300 videos with nearly 5 million views. In 2015, for the first time, she spoke on stage during the glimpses of My Inner Awakening on the last day of her second Inner Awakening in Varanasi. From then on, she decided to say yes to any opportunity to stand up and speak about the greatness of His Holiness Paramahamsa Sri Nityananda Swamiji. Her yearning for a life beyond the limits of the Western world came to fruition when His Holiness accepted her as a monastic disciple, and every blessing He had bestowed on her from that time on has been a progression from amazement to more amazement. The fulfillment of our wildest dreams and desires, which seem too good to be true, is the unfolding in her life as real as Hinduism, as the blessing and tathastu, the so be it of His Holiness Paramahamsa Sri Nityananda Swamiji. Manitya Swarpapriyananda is now heading the Nityananda social media team in the Sangha and aims to enrich the whole world with Swamiji's teachings on all social media platforms. She is an amazing power manifester and has done multiple demonstrations of various powers of third eye like remote vision, body scanning. She is known for sharing intricate details about any location in any part of the world by just scanning through her third eye. Known amongst Adinavasis for her very subtle humor and her will persistence in ensuring Adinavasis live with integrity to our routine, she enjoys making Rudraksh jewelry for all of us. She is super fun to work with and to travel together. If I were to say a few words, if I were to say a few words about Manitya Sarpa Priyananda, one thing that I have never felt that I felt about her is I've never felt that I'm interacting with somebody who is from a completely different culture, completely different background, completely different religion. I felt as if she has never had a cultural shock to be here. I always felt as if she was brought up to live this lifestyle of an Adinavasi, and she has been brought up to live this life. Living this lifestyle of sannyas, being born and brought up in India is different, but living this lifestyle of sannyas from somebody from a completely Western background from Canada, and it never felt as if she even had a shift. She even needed a cognitive shift to fit into the shoes of a sannyasi, and I'm so happy that she is amongst us, and I'm so eagerly waiting for what today's Ask the Avatar is going to bring out to the world. And now, one of her wildest fantasies being manifest in her life, as Swamiji has given her today a beautiful, blessed opportunity to sit and interview Sadashiva himself in form. So with no further ado, handing over to Manitya Sarpa Priyananda.
Thank you, Man Nityanatmananda Swami, and huge thank you, of course, to Swamiji. I really don't feel like it's fair to say that I enriched the maximum number of people second to Swamiji, because actually I wouldn't have a YouTube channel or the confidence to speak in front of people if it weren't for Swamiji. I know any good that comes from that is only Swamiji working through me, and I'm so grateful that he's given me the blessing to do this. So thank you, Swamiji. Actually, the first question that I want to ask today and ask the Avatar, it's related to everyone who is raised with that false understanding that God should be feared and that we should basically see God as someone who wants us to suffer. The more we suffer in life, the better our chance of going to some better place after life is going to be. Swamiji has spoken so beautifully about the Upanishad verse that declares Sohamasmi as the ultimate way to connect, that even while we pray to you, we are you. Can Swamiji share what's the best way someone who has come to that false understanding to fear God can overcome that indoctrination and learn to understand Sohamasmi?
Nityanandeshwara Sadashivasamarambam Nityanandeshwari Adishakti Madhyamam Asmadacharya Parayantam Vande Guru Paramparam. I welcome you all with my love and respects. Swarupriya, the first thought current you are presenting here as a question, whatever you want people should do towards you. You create a grand narrative and ask people to do that same towards that grand narrative. Like a politician. He wants people to obey him, revere him, respect him. He creates father of the nation. There is no father for any nation. How can nation be fathered? How can any nation be fathered? A politician who wants people to respect him, obey him, listen to him, be servant, he creates a grand narrative called founders of the nation or fathers of the nation. And whatever he wants people should do to him, he is asking them to do to them. See, directly telling, you do this to me, is looking too much. That looks too much. So a legitimate way of demanding is creating this grand narratives which are 120% false. Understand, I am not going to mention any nation's name, any nation's father, any particular name. I am very clear. All the grand narratives about the founders of the nations and the fathers of the nations or source of the nations are as equally as false as theory of God in the West. Understand, when you want people to love you, you create a loving God behind you as a grand narrative. Sadashiva. You say, love him, means what? Love us. That's it. Whoever is promoting whatever grand narrative and demand from the public certain attitude, whatever they demand from the public towards their grand narrative, they are demanding it on them. All the grand narratives are nothing but I want, but I can't ask. In Tamil there is a proverb. In the marriage feast, when you are sitting in a row, you want some special food. You want sambar or payasam. You can't directly shout and ask, hey, get me payasam, get me sambar. It will be too disgraceful. So you ask, this person needs sambar. The next leaves needs payasam. When they come near to serve, hey, serve here also little. Give here also little. That is exactly the problem of grand narrative and demand of certain attitude from the common man. Perverted people who wants common mass to be afraid of them create frightening, ferocious God about whom you need to be afraid all the time. Visionaries who wants love to flourish, love to be the lubrication of the lifestyle. You see, lifestyle is a mechanism. There will be frictions. Love to be the lubrication. Those visionaries created a God about whom Love is the attitude you need to deliver. Understand. When somebody says God need to be feared and he is promoting that grand narrative, he wants you to be afraid of him. First, he cannot directly ask that, so he says, be afraid of God. Then, I am his representative, so naturally, be afraid of me. Understand, the visionaries of Hindu tradition are very clear. Love is the lubrication of life. So they created, they manifested. Actually, to tell you honestly, they did not even create, they specifically revealed the truth to the world, God, in the form of ever loving and joy. See, I don't know how many of you know Krishna was murdered. But you will never see a single photograph of Krishna murdered. You will always see him with the flute. How many of you know? I don't know. How many of you know that Krishna was murdered? He was murdered. But we never talk about it. We talk about only his flute. He's standing with the flute. Either Radha Krishna or Gita Krishna. That's all. Either with Radha or with Gita. If you are married, Radha herself become Gita. Till you are married, wife and the teachings are separate. After your marriage, both becomes one. Anyhow, we don't remember Krishna is murdered. We remember him as a symbol of love, the grand narrative of love, and understand, you promote the grand narrative which you want from life. Another and most sickening attitude, the life is for suffering. Understand, fundamentally, when you do not have intelligence to teach people how to live joyfully, you teach them life is suffering. Suffer. I don't need somebody to tell me life is suffering. Come on, tell me the way out. Teach me the method through which my life can be joyful. I don't want somebody to confirm or inform life is suffering. I tell you, the people who teach the ideas like life is suffering, more you suffer, better you are. Literally, they are the tumors of life. Tumors on human consciousness. Upanishads are very clear. Isha vasyam idaggum sarvam yatkinja jagatyan jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita makridakasya sviddanam kurvannevega jijivishet karmani chadaggum samaha evam vainanyadedosti nakarma lipyate nare. These three statements are the answer for everything. The first statement, God, whatever exists is God. Understand? God is not one, it is oneness. Isha vasyam idaggum sarvam. God is not one, oneness. Then comes By owning, not possessing, enjoy the whole universe. Understand? By owning, not possessing, enjoy the whole universe. Owning is different, possessing is different. I own this Sangha, but I don't possess this Sangha. It means I own for the people to use. If I possess, no one else can use, only I can use. Owning means I am responsible. Possessing means no one else can come in. Exclusivity. Understand? The fundamental problems of life is addressed just in these 3 verses. Then comes the most important truth. Celebrate, enjoy, decide to live for hundreds of years. By being active, by being alive, decide to live hundreds of years. Understand? As a child, everyone feels at some point of life, life is not fair. The moment you think life is not fair, it becomes so much of suffering. Even if somebody gives you a cake, you feel you are tortured. That fellow is given bigger cake. Why me? Why small for me? When somebody is going through certain imaginary, immature ideas about life, you need a person who will have a matured conversation. Understand? Upanishads are the most matured conversations. These ideas, God need to be feared, and the more you suffer, good for you. These all okay for 3-4-year-old baby, not for fully grown brain. For a fully grown brain, you need a matured conversation. Understand all these ideas. Oh, God was resting. Suddenly one day he woke up and created a man, and out of man he created woman, and he told both of them not to eat a fruit, and then because they ate, they have been kicked out, and all this is okay, fairy tale for a 3-4-year-old baby, not even for a baby who is in Gurukul. But not for any matured brain. Understand? God is embodiment of pure Shakti, Bhakti, Buddhi. Life is for living, not for suffering. These are the matured conversations of life. I am not even looking at commenting or criticizing any religion or theology. Please understand, I neither mention a name nor comment, criticize any religious ideologies, theologies. Just let us look at the whole thing with an inquiry mood. Let's have a matured conversation. I think whenever next time people come to you and try to tell you, oh, you need to fear God, and the more you are suffering, better for you, just tell them, hey, let's have a matured conversation. The solution for all these problems, if somebody proposes these ideas to you, just tell them, let's have matured conversation. Thank you. Let's be adults. Let's have matured conversation. Next.
Thank you, Swamiji. Actually, Swamiji has mentioned that the biggest problem facing humanity today, it's the boredom and tiredness, and this is what's leading youth to depression. Swamiji has also mentioned that the reason Swamiji is here, the proposal Swamiji is giving humanity is for the higher possibility. It seems the immaturity in human consciousness that so many of us suffered with before knowing Swamiji is this idea life is suffering. When we get the matured cognition that life is for celebrating, that there's a higher possibility, so many people still feel as if it's impossible. That when now Swamiji has made it such a clear, reproducible science, so many of us are manifesting the Shaktis of Sadashiva, seen through the third eye. How is it that we can bring this to everyone in the world in a way that they'll also see it as their own possibility?
See, when I look at this whole thought current presented in front of me as a question by Survapriya, first thought current, the biggest problem, boredom and tiredness, I tell you, the biggest problem in next few years the humanity is going to face is not HIV, not global meltdown, not global warming, not oceans rising. It is going to be tiredness and boredom. Mentally rejecting life is boredom, physically rejecting life is tiredness. The biggest problem humanity is going to face is boredom and tiredness. Understand? We have come to a level, our thinking mind has matured so much. Understand, whenever mind matures, it decides to generalize the life and life's experiences. For example, a baby, he gets one car tie, one tie of flight, tie of bus, he will be excited for every tie. And one tie of elephant, one tie of peacock, he will be excited for every tie he gets. He will be playing with it, enjoying it. But the so-called mind, when it grows, it generalizes, oh, all tie, what is there? Same. Then all gifts, what is there? Same, to be excited about. And all things, what is there? Same, what is there to be excited about? When a mind grows, it generalizes the experience. Generalization is the foundation of boredom. Faulty generalization. Understand? Understand this word. Faulty generalization is the source of all blind spots in your life. Whether not feeling inspired, not feeling active, not feeling alive, faulty generalization. There's a beautiful story in Ramana Maharshi's life. The Mudaliyar Patti, an old lady who used to bring food for Bhagavan almost 4 decades, more than 40 years. Almost the whole period she was, Bhagavan was in Tiruvannamalai. I think he lived in Tiruvannamalai for around 50 years or something, little less than 50 years. and she served him at least 40 years, 4 decades, by bringing food. One day somebody asked, Bhagavan, are you not bored of the same food? He looked up and answered, very simple, straight answer, I don't eat the same food every day. How can I eat the same food every day? Every meal is new for me. Understand, mind functions on faulty generalization. Faulty generalization makes your life tired and bored. And any field you are not doing faulty generalization, you will be alive and active in that field. Be very clear. I am teaching, speaking, engaging, entertaining, talking, communicating, relating with people. Almost last 17 years, 2000, my public life started. It was not 2001 as we were thinking. We got recently photographic evidence in 2000. I am already out in public life, conducting Chandi Homas, holding satsangs, classes. From 2000 means almost 17 years I am doing this. And I am going to be doing this at least 9 more decades. Understand? Still, if I repeat even the same story 10,000th time, I do not know whether you are excited or not. I will be excited. Because there is no faulty generalization in my life. I do not feel, oh, the same hall, same pillars, I'll have to talk again. No. No. I'll have to tell the same story again. No. Your eyes are not same. Even if you are same, your eyes are not same. I am speaking to you who is sitting now, not the you who sat yesterday here. You may think you are the same who sat here yesterday. I am the same who sat here yesterday. So that is why listening sometimes may be boring. But I don't think you are the same who sat yesterday for listening. I am the same who sat yesterday for talking. There is no faulty generalization. That is why I am excited. One of the biggest problems humanity is going to face is faulty generalization. Understand? Media, society, government policies, all of them uphold faulty generalization as the foundation. Like in India, this caste-based allocations allotments. The worst faulty generalization, the best example for the worst faulty generalization is caste-based percentage of allotments in education or the job or all the government facilities. I tell you, this caste-based is the most important example, I can say, cruel joke on human beings. That is one of the worst examples, most infamous example for faulty generalization. Society has started using, understand, statistics are different, faulty generalization is different. Statistics can evolve as a science, faulty generalization is a blind spot. This faulty generalization is now being used as the foundation for humanity to grow to the next level, and that foundation will lead to a worst boredom and tiredness. By 25 you have done everything. You have not left anything good or bad. For a smoke, you are able to fly to Las Vegas. For a dinner, you fly to Italy. Before your teenage is over, either you make somebody pregnant or you get pregnant. Everything is done. And your mind has grown in the line of faulty generalization. Understand, large number of choices being considered as freedom and faulty generalization. This too is going to kill humanity in largest number than any other epidemic. First thing, choices are not freedom. Choices are good, but that is not freedom. Freedom should not be equated to choices available. Freedom should be equated to your capacity to choose what you want and handle what you want, live with what you have chosen. Understand? Multiple choices are not freedom. Your ability to choose and take responsibility for what you have chosen, that is freedom. In Sanskrit we have a beautiful word, swatantra, means the technique, method to handle yourself. Swatantra. Swa means self, tantra means technique, ability to handle. If you are able to handle, you have swatantra. If you are able to handle, you have freedom. If not, you are free-dumb. Free-dumb. You don't have free-dumb, you are free-dumb. D-U-M-B. Only choices means freedom. Only if you are able to handle yourself, you have freedom. I tell you, anything which can be enjoyed, experienced with these five senses, is not going to help you to get out of freedom. Start exploring 11 dimensions of consciousness. Start exploring 25 states of consciousness. Start exploring multi-dimensions of universe. Start exploring various aspects and powers and powerful cognitions of consciousness. I tell you, that is only going to make you engage with life. Understand? If you are engaging only with the limited things, it is called engaging. You are not engaging, you are engaged. Only if you are able to engage with the larger dimensions of life, understand, not larger quantity of items, larger quality of life, larger dimensions of life, you will experience life as a celebration. I tell you, nothing is going to be more inspiring in the future anymore other than exploring consciousness and enlightenment. Exploring consciousness and enlightenment. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else. If you are not exploring your consciousness, no other way, you will be imploding in boredom. Next.
Swamiji, after this I don't know even which question to go to because there's so many beautiful thought currents Swamiji has just introduced in this one answer. But Swamiji ended by saying the only thing that can pull people out of the boredom and tiredness is exploring the 11 dimensions, the 25 states of consciousness. In the West, there's already a trend pushing towards this. We see all kinds of television shows like Ancient Aliens that present a theory of, beings from other dimensional planes playing a role in the evolution of humanity. And it seems like everything that the Western seekers theorize and discuss, wouldn't it be cool if this was true? When we actually look into the Vedagamas and listen to Swamiji speaking, it really is real. And in Hinduism, there's no such thing as doubting or questioning. There's that solid, tangible, historical evidence that it's here. So when it comes to people wondering, could Swamiji's proposal to humanity actually be valid and possible for us? Is there something Swamiji can say about these other dimensional beings, the role that they've played on planet Earth?
See, we always had regular traffic. Understand? I'm not using the word just traveling, traffic. Traveling means few people going and coming, few times. Traffic means common to all, available to public. We had traffic between planes and different dimensions of universe. It was a regular affair. A chaste woman goes to take bath, and in the river she sees the Gandharva. It's a usual thing. Visits from beings from other planets was usual because we do not have the word aliens. Mata cha Parvati Devi Pita Devo Maheshwara Bandava Shiva Bhaktascha Swadesho Bhuvanatrayam. three world, or I should say three universes, are the native. Swadesho Bhuvanatrayam. Understand, we neither felt nor called somebody as aliens. Maybe how I send inner awakening participants to Tiruvannamalai. I should tell group of rishis to come from Kailash and make a trip. I know again, it looks too big or too good to be true. Even if it is too good, it is true, is Hinduism. There is no such thing as too good to be true. All too good things are true. We should actually change the word. Too bad to be true. All good is true. Understand, all good is true. And I should say, even though it looks too good, it is true. We had a regular traffic, we have a regular traffic, we will have the regular traffic, and I will introduce them to the mainstream humanity soon. Next.
Swamiji, one other topic that seems to really fascinate people in the West, but that's common and understood and accepted by everyone I've met here, is reincarnation and past lives. Actually, I was speaking with one Inner Awakening participant here recently. She said the first time she saw one of Swamiji's YouTube videos, the first thought in her mind was, he's changed so much. Later, she went for an Akashic reading, and through one of the Balasants, Kala Bhairava revealed that in her most recent past life, she actually met Swamiji during his Parivrajaka years. So she's only 18 years old now. When we meet people like this, who have had this very clear, tangible proof that past lives are real, that reincarnation is bringing them back, and when we see so many examples of this, one thing that seems to excite even people who are suffering with the boredom and tiredness of that Western culture is reincarnation. How can we take this to the world also and show the same blessing that Hindus have to everyone?
See, introduction about you to you is too important. If you are told you have multiple lives, you will explore and try to discover evidence for that. If you are told you have only one life, you will stop exploring. It is like if you have been told there is a country here, you can go there and work, you have a better opportunity, there are so many other entertainment, you will even think of going there exploring. If you have been told nothing like that ever exists, nothing exists other than your boundary, you will not even explore. And anybody who is exploring, you will condemn them, you will curse them, you will call them names, you will tell them cheats. If somebody says, I'll take you there, you will say, oh, no, he is cheat. Understand? Denying the multiple life is literally like a well frog. One frog from the ocean by mistake reached a small well. There was a frog in that well who was born and brought up there, that frog asked this frog, "Hey, where are you from?" He said, "I am from ocean." "What do you mean by ocean?" The ocean frog said, "It's a large water body." This fellow immediately got jealous and angry. "Hey, what do you mean by large water body? Larger than this well?" Ocean frog said, "Surely it is large." Then the well frog got so angry, he jumped from one end to another end and said, "Larger than this or what?" Till the end, ocean frog was not able to make the well frog understand. And well frog was never ready to listen, understand. You being told there's only one life is like you are growing as a well frog. When you meet ocean frog who knows multiple lives, learn from it. Don't be jealous and angry about it. Learn from it. Don't be angry and jealous about it. Life is larger than life. Life is larger than life. You need to know life is larger than life. Understand. Understanding the truth about multiple life helps you to understand you rightly, understand world rightly, understand God rightly. Because from understanding about you comes understanding about the world and understanding about God, understanding about everything exists. So I should say, multiple life is not just belief, it's a real understanding about life. Next.
Swamiji has mentioned that in some traditions this idea of shunyatva, or complete dissolution into nothingness, is enlightenment. But in Sanatana Hindu Dharma, Swamiji is giving us the experience of everythingness as enlightenment. And instead of trying to meditate on, say, a face before any face existed, meditate on Sadashiva with 1,000,000 faces. How is this going to be a tangible experience of enlightenment beyond what we've thought of as enlightenment before, especially in Mahasadashivoham this December?
See, the shunyatva, non-existence, by the very definition of the word non-existent, how is that going to be the eternal existent? Are you interested to exist eternally? Are you interested in just becoming nothing? See, the existence in you, the life you feel, it which vibrates in you, pulsates in you, that is what is functioning, perceiving, living, that decides, feels, moves. Actually, it decides to live forever. That decision only expresses as life in us. The shunyatva is a complete idea of withdrawing from existence and life. Purnatva, Sadashivatva is the real understanding about life. I should say, Sadashivatva, Purnatva is active, responsible life. When you want to withdraw from that, you decide to create a delusion of shunyatva and hide yourself into that delusion. Mahasadashivoham will make you experience multiple dimensions and the millions of identities with which you exist, which I should say is all pervading oneness, not oneness. Ultimately, if you want to see the difference, the thoughtlessness of depression cannot be the thoughtlessness of Sadashiva. Thoughtlessness you experience when you are in oneness cannot be the thoughtlessness you perceive when you are in depression. There is a huge difference between Shunyatva and Purnatva. I should say Purnatva is experience, Shunyatva is a delusion. If you put life as a reason for all your suffering, you will try to escape from life. If you think incompletions are the reason for your sufferings, you will escape from incompletion. Whatever you find as a reason for your suffering, you will escape from that. If you think incompletions are reason for your suffering, you will move to completion, Purnatva. If you think life is the reason for your suffering, you will move to Shunyatva. It's up to you whether to move to Shunyatva or Purnatva. Purnatva only will be eternal.
Actually, Swamiji's answer explains exactly why one of the most frequently asked questions I receive from YouTube viewers. They say that the moment they see Swamiji for the first time, it's like love at first sight. So understanding that in Sanatana Hindu Dharma, Sadashiva exists as an embodiment of that love, and for people to understand that that reciprocal quality of Godel is there, not to make us fear, but to make us realize oneness with that Purnatva being expressed is such a huge gift to all of us. Just thank you so much, Swamiji, for the blessing to choose to say yes to life, to choose to see the incompletions as the reason for suffering, not life as the reason for suffering. I just have one last question, Swamiji. Some people are saying after Mahasadashivoham, they can't imagine ever wanting to go back to the Maya Matrix world again. They want to stay here with Swamiji. Can they have blessings for that?
I am creating this place for everyone to come and explore all the possibilities and powers of human consciousness. I am creating the programs for people to come and explore and stay back. Understand? I am creating this place for people to come and stay here and explore the possibilities and powers. I am creating programs for people to come and settle down in this place, so you can explore the possibilities and powers. All my programs are invitations for good, not invitation for few days. Understand? If you receive a flyer, Kalpataru program, it is true. But if you see the line, one day program, it is lie. If you get the invitation for inner awakening, it is true. If it says 23-day program, it is false. Understand, people who missed the invitation go back. Otherwise, all invitation from me is for good. So, essence of what I want to share today through Ma Swarupa Priya, too good to be true, but true. And apart from the introduction given to Swarupa Priya by Jnanatma, if I have to add one line, it is too intimate and too sweet, my most chaste disciple. And it has layers and layers and layers and layers of beautiful, sweet, powerful understandings. And she is the one cub roars in social media. By her roar, she brought many more cubs. So, as a blessing and authorization, I give this, the lion stick, to her. To roar more in not only social media, everywhere. Blessings. Blessings. This is for you. So with this, I bless you all. Let's all radiate with integrity, authenticity, responsibility, enriching, causing, living Shuddhatvaita Saivam, Sada Shivoham, the eternal bliss, Nityananda. Thank you. Be blissful.